it's one thing to be on stage and valued, and then you get on a train and you notice that your value is different because it's not people paying to see you. It's people watching to see if you're scary or watching to see if you're that kind of black man or this kind of black man. I am a troublemaker, an
like that.
artist, a liberator, a doctor, and a patient.
Mm. Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing when it comes to us, Black Lives Mattering in this time, and what you're doing with Broadway Advocacy Coalition.
Yeah. First, I come into advocacy work first as an artist, and an artist who primarily is doing Black-centered work, So It got to a point where I was like, yo, what's my role in shifting the narrative about how people think about me and my cousins and my mom and you? And so me and some friends in the industry started this organization called the Broadway Advocacy Coalition, where we center stories of those who are most directly affected by issues of mass incarceration and systemic racism at large. And we link those stories to policy. I find that our stories are really important, and the things that we go through in the industry and outside of the industry, I think unintentionally just like normalize oppression because our grandmother went through it, our grandfathers went through it, and it's something that is a part of how we move around in all these spaces, white spaces, the laundromat. And when they're linked to policy, you get to really understand how heavy some of these behaviors and ideas about who we are start to become to our normal way of being. So I'm all about dismantling that shit, burning that shit down, and then really highlighting what I think it should look like, highlighting what I think it looks like when we're all liberated, and try to get us closer and closer to my vision of fullest liberation. And I do that in my advocacy work and in my music. And I try to practice that too. That's why I say I'm a doctor and a patient, because as I'm giving medicine, I'm also trying to make it for myself and make sure that I'm not tripping when I'm in white spaces, and I'm really standing in my Blackness the way I want others to.
Well, when you say linking to policy, can you explain that and what that means, what that looks like?
Yeah. Just an example. I teach a course at Columbia Law School with a bunch of folks in our organization, and we have this course called the Theater of Change. And this young man came in and was telling us a story, and he said, I was previously incarcerated, and my mom and family live in the NYCHA housing, which is Section 8, like funded public housing in New York City. And you can't live there if you have a criminal record. So he got out, he went home, his mom was like, listen, I would love for you to stay here, but if they find out that you're here, they'll kick me out. So he had to go back into the streets, stay at a friend's house, and he got in trouble again. So there was a policy written down in NYCHA housing that really affected him being able to come home. It affected his relationship with his mom and his dad. Because, she's like, of course I want you to come here. But that policy is keeping me from being the kind of mother I wish I could be for you right now. So that policy made him have to go back into the street, fend for himself, and then perpetuated him having to do things, take care of himself, which led him going back into the system. So there are policies like that that are written that when you see and you hear a story, it's really easy to be like, well, he shouldn't have went to da-da-da-da and did a lot. But if you look deeper into the story, you see that there was a thing written down that really made it harder for him to be as free as we think he should be.
I love that. Not love that, but I love that you are opening eyes to things that are, we know, that are ingrained into how this place is ran. That is a detriment to us. But that makes it so plain, because my mom still lives in public housing now, but in North Carolina. And there's similar clauses and policies, like if I were to go home and live with her, then her rent would increase. Well, if I'm already living in public housing, where is that coming from?
It's not meant to serve the fullest. It's meant to over police. It's meant to mandate you to stay at a certain space. And, we didn't write the laws. And so it's up to us to like figure out which laws are inhibiting us and try our best to vote for the people who are targeting with you and dismantle that thing.
Listen, because the dismantling ain't just the one time only. Just because you put yourself in the voting booth, it has to continue. And like you said, like these are the movements, the tiny movements that like actually create the bigger changes. So I feel like, like you're really showing the folks that like it's possible for us to actually shake some stuff up.
Oh yeah, it is. And we've taken that work out of Columbia and placed it in the Broadway industry. And the Broadway industry acts much like all the other systems that we're like is blatantly racist. Everybody in position of power is white, and everybody who's most directly affected by the issues of racism are at the bottom, people of color striving to, praying for, clawing for, it's horrible. So we're trying to let Broadway know, yo, you look a lot like the mass incarceration system. And people are like, but we're artists and we're free.
I know, because you wouldn't even think that, because you're like, well, there's so much representation. There's so many different types of roles. And
yeah, it's super limited. The people who have roles are beautiful and in positions of power while they're hired. But the real power lies in the folks who are in sustained power. And there's not a lot of people in sustained power on Broadway. You have power like while you're booked, whatever job ends.
That's a good point. Good point. So what does like, now that you are also like walking what'd you say, you are a doctor and a patient. So you're doing this within your own artistry as well. You mentioned your music. You're so talented, Britton.
Oh, thank you, love. Thank you, love.
It's a talent for me. You be singing with your mouth wide open.
Come on. Yeah, it's a blessing. We were talking like before we actually pressed record, and I just feel abundant, and it's placed in a space where you can create from your own history. This single is about me finding wisdom internally and where I get that wisdom from, and how I have to sit my ass down and be quiet. And therapy is great, friends are great, family is great, but we all have an internal source of wisdom that beats in us, that is from our ancestors and from the universe, asking us to be quiet, breathe, sit in. And as a nation, when we're desperate enough, we sit still. And we were super desperate last year and right now. And it forced us to surrender and realize that Black women are a source of wisdom. And I'm sorry that it took desperation and it took a pause, but internally it took a pause and desperation for me to tap into my own wisdom. So I hope the nation listens to this song and realize that, like, now that we've woken up to Black women being a source of wisdom, how do we take care of that? How do we hold that and be responsible to that source?
So the song that Britton is talking about is his song, Lady Wisdom.
Yeah, Britton and the Sting. Yeah.
Yes. And I really love that it's basically like a listen to Black women anthem. Like, it's really like, and not to say, because a lot of people get that just as confused as they get Black Lives Matter, right? Where you're just like, well, so we're not going to listen to anybody else. So like, how would you, I mean, not that we are here to explain anything to those who choose confusion, but what do you say to the people who do not understand Black Lives Matter, do not understand listen to Black women, or what that even entails when it comes to what you're saying, especially in this song?
The confused are gonna be confused, really, and like I think I think an artist's responsibility is to write from a place of knowing. And I can only write what I know. And what I know is my granny continues to have things that have been said in my life that as I get wiser, I really understand. What I know is that when I'm stressed and desperate, who I call my friends, they're Black women. And what I know is, you know, what my own source has been. And so I'm asking people to be interested in my knowing and really crack into like, okay, well, if that's working for him, if that's where he finds a source, where do I find my source? And if that's in your granny, and if your granny is Asian or white, you know, you should uplift that. But I'm talking about my knowing.
Come
And,
on now.
you
This is
know,
my street that I'm walking down.
okay. This is my song. This is my knowing.
My
You know,
street.
this is my shit. Yeah.
Well, what have Black women meant to you in that sense?
You know, I will say, and another reason why I say doctor and patient is because, you know, being queer and Black in the Southern church ain't cute to some Black women. It ain't cute. It's cute that, you know, he's a little sweet little boy, you know, we love him, he's sweet, but, you know, you need to get saved, you need to da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
So it took a while for me to actually feel safe, not safe like in danger, but like really fully seen.
And welcomed, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like some of you is cool, but not all of you is cool. But I love you anyway, baby. And so to have to navigate that and like, you know, single mom, I was at my granny house, my mom tried her best. So they're a source of care, but also a source of like maybe distrust in my full light. So it's been something to navigate, to be completely honest. But as I've done my own healing and I return and I reach out to the Black women in my life, they see me fully and they cut for me fully. Mm-hmm. And regardless of my religious beliefs or our religious back and forth, there's a knowing of my light that like is really important. You know, I feel like sometimes we feel like if someone disagrees with you, you gotta cut them off. There's a piece of the song that highlights my like grandmother's voice, and she sent me a voicemail, and she said, "Don't let the devil ride, because if you let him ride, he'll start to drive." There's something about that even though I'm not in church anymore, like in a Christian like way specifically, and though I've adopted Buddhism a part of my Christianity and like mindfulness a part of my Christianity, there's still a knowingness of like, don't let bad energy get too forward because it will control you and hold you down. And so there are things that Black women have said that as I get older, I really see, even though there was a disconnect, there ain't really a disconnect. I don't know. Did that make sense, Danielle?
It does. I mean, it sounds like a complex relationship with the nurturing side of Black women, and especially coming through the church. Mm-hmm. But having to, I guess, understand that there's just so many different types of us in general, mm-hmm. that even, you know, outside of those experiences, you do still revere mm-hmm. Black women. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Is that?
No, yeah. I've been held down and guided, really, even through disagreement or even through what it seems like a lack of seeing me fully. As I start to grow older and understand more and really see the plight against Black women, I'm like, whoa, I didn't realize my mom was targeted. You know, I knew I was targeted, but I'm like, whoa, Ma. And so as we get older and connect, you see all the things that are a part of the disconnect, and you realize I feel more connected than I thought, you know. And there's responsibility and caring for that. For them. Yeah.
I love that. What do you feel like is important about the choices that you have made for yourself when it comes to your career and how you are, like, as a person? Like, what do you really, latch on to when it comes to the choices that you've made around those things for yourself?
I think authenticity, defiance, and bravery. You know, I've people have labeled me, boy, you bad my whole life. Like you can't be blah blah blah, you bad. And now I wasn't bad. I was defiant and challenging, and
Ooh, come
I
on.
wanted to live in my own sauce. And I think a lot of the things that have propelled me and have separated me from my peers in school and in the business is that, like, you don't want me to have tattoos. You don't want me to be loud. You don't want me to be proud of my queerness. So I'm going to be brave and authentic. And I think that is what I'm probably most proud of. Like whether I'm teaching at Columbia Law School, whether I'm getting my hair cut, whether I'm talking to you right now, I want everybody to see the same Britton. And that's a choice of defiance, of not shifting. I ain't got a lot to kick it. I'm right where I need to be. I'm growing, I'm thriving. I am who I am. And there's some bravery and some authenticity that is required to be able to do that. And so I think my decisions and the path that I'm on has required that and has lifted that up.
Okay.
Be yourself. Everybody be yourself. Yourself is the sauce.
That's the sauce. Everybody else is already taken anyway. You don't want that.
Yeah, everyone else is taken. Yes.
That's already done. Be you.
Yeah. There's only one Danielle Young, and you out here being authentically you, bravely you, defiantly you, all of that. And if we all tap into that, we're going to go to another planet. That's
the sauce. That's the stuff that it's made of. And I think that people do try, and by people, I'm even talking about myself. You know, I would always try to model myself after someone else, or attempt to get their success, attempt to go after what they've gotten. And I'm like, that's cute. It's not a blueprint. It's just an example of what's possible.
Yeah.
It doesn't diminish what anyone has done or anything. It's just, that's not necessarily, you can't recreate someone's journey or their success. It's just, wow, that's cool. Now I know that that's something that I could do because someone did that thing.
Yeah. And I love what you say. I have to remind myself too. And also, it's okay to have to remind yourself and reset yourself. You see something, you're like, ooh, good. I'm good. My seed is my seed. My sauce is my sauce. Whew. Sorry about that. Let's go.
Right? It takes so much pressure off of everything to just center yourself in that way. Knowing you are you. Like, nothing can take away from that. Nothing anybody gets. Nothing anybody does. And there's so much freedom in being like, oh.
Yeah, right. I'm talking to like lawmakers right after this, and this like big press thing to make sure that the law in our industry, literally the law needs to be that you can't tell a Black woman how to wear her hair. That needs to be a law. I'm talking to legislators right after this call, and in my mind, it's like, oh, well, should I change clothes? Like, this is a big call. I can wear this and still talk to lawmakers. Like, it's those little things of like, how much do you want to shift for what you want to achieve? You don't have to shift shit, man. I'm learning that, and so much power and pride in that. I'm not going to be as proud if I change clothes. I'm going to feel like I had to
put on a thing and be a thing.
Yeah, I'm the thing. We're the thing.
We the thing, Britton.
You're such a beacon of light. And I feel like God propels light to overshadow the shadows of the darkness, because there's so much darkness. So people who are light, messages that are light, songs that are light, we're going to see like, whoa, that's a whole lot of light, because it's necessary. It is urgent. It's urgent.
It is urgent. And that's exactly how I feel within this time, to be able to like thrive in this way. Because it was also urgent for me to do so. You know, losing your job and then a pandemic starting, it was just like, and you were talking about that too, like picking up, moving, going to a place that you think you can't afford, and here you are.
Abundance is real. It is, and it's a blessing, and I don't take it for granted. And I just want to be able to hold it all, which is
Ooh, I
a
love
process.
that.
It's just a process, and that old saying, "To whom much is given, much is required."
Honestly, it's good because it's real. The more for you requires more from you.
Dude, yeah.
And I'm a more kind of person. Now that God has bestowed upon me the abundance, I'm like, I have a lifestyle to uphold.
Yeah. No, real.
God has introduced me to a certain level that I must maintain. I do appreciate you coming through, and just, it's so awesome to see like where we started, how it started, how it's going.
Come on.
How it started, how
Yeah.
it's going. Congratulations. Like,
Likewise.
putting yourself out here is not easy.
Yeah. Thanks for highlighting the work. Thanks for highlighting BAC. Thanks for highlighting the music, just mobilizing it all. I appreciate you, and I'm proud of you, and it's so good to see you shining. We need it. We really need it.
Thank you, boo.
Real quick with that.